welcome back to Pearls of Motherhood and to part 2 of The One That Stayed. In our last episode, Diana shared the emotional beginnings of her IVF journey after 13 years of infertility, multiple losses, and the decision to finally pursue IVF during the uncertainty of the pandemic. We ended that episode with just one genetically viable embryo and the quiet, breathtaking hope that came with it. If you haven't listened to that episode yet and want to hear the full story leading up to today, it's definitely worth going back when you can. It's honest, powerful, and incredibly moving. In today's episode, we're picking up right where we left off. We'll talk about what happened after that one embryo, how Diana prepared for the transfer, stood up for herself during a critical moment of care, and how life threw even more curveballs with a cross-country move and the pressure of trying to time it all just right. So this is the part of the journey where everything was on the line, emotionally, physically, and logistically. And through it all, Diana kept showing up for herself, for her baby, and for her dream. So let's dive in.
Okay, so I guess just as a refresher for where we are at this moment, I had just completed 2 weeks of medicine and I had undergone the egg retrieval. I had 11 eggs harvested. They were fertilized. I had 7 embryos and I sent those off for genetic testing and I only had one viable embryo. And so in the timeline of things, this is only at the end of the week. And in most cases of IVF, you come back to the office and you would normally have the embryos implanted. But for me, I needed to go get a second endometrial biopsy because remember, he didn't get a sufficient sample for the ERA to see what my endometrial lining looked like. And he did not run the endometriosis test like he told me that he would. So we're going back in for the whole thing again.
Oh my gosh.
But I guess I would call this the turning point because I got really, really angry and you're going to find out why. So I went in, as always, I was in a gown and in the OBGYN, exam position with your legs up in stirrups again. And I remember looking up at this crystal butterfly on the ceiling because he has that up there to kind of like distract the patients and let them focus on something. And it's pretty, but I remember feeling really cold and I'm super emotional because I'm really nervous and I'm also really hyped up on hormones. And he always came in to the office visits kind of unprepared. And he would go and say things like, "Oh, so what are you here for?" And I worked in medicine and I would go into a visit and interview a patient and ask them, "Look, what brings you here today?" And like conversationally, but it was never like, "Oh, I have no idea what's going on." He genuinely acted like he didn't know what was going on. And I was like, okay, maybe that's just his style. And also he was always very cold. He wasn't a warm person. He wouldn't hold your hand if that's the kind of care that you wanted. And at first I was kind of offended by it, but I was like, oh, I don't need him to hold my hand. I have my husband for that. I have family. I have friends. I have a support system. I just need his skills is what I always told myself. But this time when he came in and was like, "Oh, so what are we doing today?" I'm like, "We're doing 2 tests, remember?" He goes, "No, we're only doing 1." I said, "No, we're doing 2." And he goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." And so he's looking through my chart. My chart is really thick, obviously, because it's not straightforward. And after a while, he says, "Oh, yeah, we are doing 2." And then he said to me, just to kind of save face, "Your case is really complicated. It's not straightforward." And I saw red. I was so mad.
Jeez.
I was so mad and I was so offended. And his assistants were in the room too, and they were just silent. Like I saw the look on their faces was, I can't believe he just said that. And I wanted to cry because that's what I do when I'm upset, and I wanted to scream. And I I remember sitting up and looking him in the eye and saying, I came to you because you are supposed to be the best. You are known as the baby whisperer. And if my case were simple, I wouldn't be here. If it's too complicated for you, just say so, and I'll take my one embryo and I'll find someone who can handle it. And then he apologized. And
Wow.
from that moment on, he knew my case inside and out. He never came in again and said, oh, what are we doing today? He always knew it. He treated me with respect and the care that he always should have. But I was like, oh, that's just his personality. He's a really good practitioner by reputation, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, how dare you insult me that way? Yeah, I know I'm not a simple case. That's why I'm here. And I've paid you a lot of money. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
a big moment for me.
I feel like that is a great lesson for all of us women, because as women, we tend to be like people pleasers and we tend to kind of back down from conflict, and we kind of just like allow a lot of people to mistreat us or not, or take advantage of us or whatever. And I think it's a good lesson for all of us that like standing up for ourselves and advocating for ourselves can have very positive effects.
I agree, especially when you're in such a vulnerable position, you know, being the patient. You're not the expert. You're asking them for help, and then you're supposed to defer to them. And when you say something like that, as a practitioner, first of all, you're not supposed to say something like that. Okay, say it in your head, but don't say it out loud. You know, filter it, man. But that
you would
changed.
think that like everybody who's going through this is a complicated case. Otherwise, they wouldn't need you.
Exactly. I was just so, I saw red. And the thing is that my husband wasn't in the room with me because it was a procedure. So anyone extra wasn't allowed in the room. Otherwise, I think he would have jumped down the guy's throat.
I wonder what he would. Yeah, I was going to ask, what did he do? But yeah, that makes sense. Of course, he wasn't there.
Yep. His assistants were like blown away when he said it. And then the fact that I stood up for myself, I guess it doesn't happen often, but they were like, whoa. Sure. I saw one girl inching away towards the exit door. I guess she was newer, but she was like inching towards the door, like out of the corner of my eye. I saw her.
That's awesome. So, like, what did it feel like to have to stand up for yourself? You're in such a vulnerable position right there, yeah. And you have to stand up for yourself.
I had a lot of adrenaline running through me. It was like a whole spectrum of feelings because I was angry. I was hurt. My feelings were literally hurt. And I'm super emotional because my body thinks it's pregnant, but doesn't think it's pregnant. It doesn't know what it is because it doesn't know what just happened. I thought, am I in the right place? Do I even belong here? Are you actually as good as you say you are, as everyone says you are? So all these feelings. And
yeah,
I really did think, okay, shut your mouth and don't say anything. But in my head, I just said, no, this is not right. This is not okay. You've been in medicine your entire life. This is not how you treat a patient. You would cringe if you did that, and you would ream out another person if they did that to your patient. So that's not okay. So for any woman out there, advocate.
Now, what does it, like, that moment represent for you?
I think it represented me finally embracing motherhood, because we discussed in the past how like being a mom has made me braver, and because I would never like really advocate for myself because I don't want to stir the pot too much, you know, even though I have opinions and I would normally say what I want to, I would gloss it over a little bit or say it nicely. But as a mom, you are braver, and I had to stand up for me and my baby. And I think that's really the moment that I just said, okay, I'm going to be a mother and I'm going to stand up for what I need and what this baby needs.
Mm-hmm. That is awesome because it's true. Like you're like a tiger once you're a mother.
You are. The term tiger mom is so true. So he did the biopsy, and the results came back, and it says it was past my ideal implantation window. So I have to wait another month all over again because I'm past my window. I cannot have the embryo transferred to me. So I have to wait because I have to shed this lining and grow a new one and then try again. And he didn't run the endometriosis test again.
Shut up. Like, no.
Yep. He did not.
What?
Yep. After all that, he still didn't run it. And he said, oh, and he blamed the lab techs. So
he needs to be firing some lab techs, in my opinion.
No, it's the
Why are they still working there?
It's not his techs. He's blaming the laboratory where they sent it off to.
Oh.
Because of course that's
okay,
an easy cop out. That's an easy cop out, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But whoever's fault it was, there's no going back because you can't get that back. You can't get that moment back, right? I was like, well, okay, well, what's done is done. What do I do now? And he said, well, you're gonna have to do it all over again. Take the thin lining protocol because you don't have enough lining, and we're going to do another biopsy the next month.
Wow. So how many of those did you have to do?
This will be my third endometrial biopsy, when ideally it should have only been one and done.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a lot.
Yeah. So I got my period, and then I took another round of medicine. So I had to wait another month. And then I went down 1 week, about week number 3, and I did another ultrasound. And he says, okay, your lining looks good. Come back next week for another biopsy. And so I did. And, it's like a 2-hour drive one way down the mountain. So
yeah.
Went back down, came back up that night, and he ran the endometriosis test, and it was immensely positive for endometriosis. And I was really shocked because I thought for sure of all the tests that would come back negative. I never considered myself to have like the extremely painful periods or anything like that, like a lot of women deal with. I was never hospitalized. And my periods were never super heavy. So I thought that it was just normal. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. You deal with it because you're a woman. You're tough. And when he told me that, he was really happy, and my husband was really happy because now you have a reason and there's a fix for it. So he started me on a treatment that didn't cure it because there's no cure for endometriosis. But for me, it was a low dose breast cancer chemotherapy treatment. That's really what it was. Because I was surprised. Yeah.
What? Wow. For how long?
For less than a month, about 3 weeks. I took it for 3 weeks.
So what does that do? How does that treat it?
So endometriosis patients have a high level of estrogen, and because there are breast cancers that feed off of estrogen, what they do for that breast cancer is that they block the receptors on the cancer, so it cannot take in estrogen and blocks the estrogen from them. So what they did for me is that I took a low dose version of it and it blocked my estrogen. So I was at normal estrogen level. And the idea is that with a lower estrogen level, I can then have the lining go into my uterus and be a healthy lining from there on out. And then I have a window of 3 months to have the embryo transferred for ideal timing.
So it helps you create like a full 8-inch lining.
That's what 8 millimeter.
Would ideally do.
I ate 8 millimeter.
Or 8 millimeter.
A foot lining. Oh, no wonder I feel so bloated. I get it now. It can feel like 8 inches sometimes, right? When you have your period.
It does feel like 8 inches. Oh my God. I'm not good at math or measurements. Let's just put that out there.
I made the same mistakes so many times. So you're not alone.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so the idea is that I would get a nice thick cushiony lining because my estrogen in my body was lower. So it would go to the correct place rather than everywhere else that I guess it goes, including my other organs. So
wow.
So I did that. But hiccup. We were getting ready to move back across the nation. Do you remember that? We're moving back. We're moving back to the East Coast.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You should have just stayed here.
I know, right? I know, right? Because I was so in my head, I knew that we were getting ready to move because, like I said, during COVID, my mom was re-diagnosed with cancer. So I was taking care of her, and my husband and I were separated for months, and we said, we don't want to do that anymore. So we need to move back and take care of our aging parents, while we still can. So we started making plans while I was doing IVF and the egg retrieval and all that stuff to move back home. We were looking for jobs, and we bought a house, remotely. And I was hoping, in my head, I was like, okay, so I'm going to be in my window with this third biopsy. It's going to be fine. And I'm going to get transferred. I'm going to get my embryo, and I'm going to be pregnant when I move across the country, and I'll be done. And yeah, that didn't happen. And I think it's a good thing because I don't think moving,
honestly, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been so stressed out.
So stressed. I mean, not good for my pregnancy or for the baby, having to move across the country and live in a house that isn't ready to be lived in yet. Not great, right? But in my head, it totally worked out. And so I was so angry when he called me with those results because there goes my plans, right?
Yes.
So,
but, I always believe that everything really, really, truly does happen at the right time, that it's meant for you, like regardless. So like there was a reason. You probably could have, like, there's probably a higher risk of you losing the pregnancy if you would have had all that stress. Like moving is very stressful, physically stressful, emotionally, and all that. Like when you're pregnant, my husband and I look at it as like a condition, like a serious condition. Like I need to rest. I need sleep. I need to eat. Like I'm not out there like mowing the grass. You know what I mean? Like you need to treat yourself delicately and to avoid problems.
Yeah. And, in retrospect, it was such a good thing because having been pregnant and my pregnancy was not fun, I could not have moved and done all the things I needed to do while being in the condition I was in being pregnant. So it was really a good thing. And it was the best thing because when the time did come, I did get pregnant with my baby and I got to take care of just us and not moving across the country and managing household repairs and all that stuff and a husband starting a new job. So in the end, we were delayed a few more months because I told the doctor that, and he goes, well, your options are you can keep your embryo with us and you fly back for transfer when you're ready, or you can find a specialist where you live now on the East Coast and we'll transfer your embryo over. And I said, okay, how does that work? Thinking it's like all really super duper carrier or something like that. It's via FedEx.
It's like a cooler. Like, what? No, thank you.
That's what I imagine. And I am sure that they have strict protocols and they are totally capable of handling it. But in my head, I was thinking, no, she's my one and only. No, I'm coming back.
Yeah. Smart move.
So that my mind went reeling when I got that diagnosis. Like, oh my gosh, there goes my plans. I'm moving. What's going to happen to my embryo? All that stuff. So it was a very it was a mentally heavy time.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. So then I actually remember when it was time for, didn't we do like a girls trip? Was that the same trip you were out here, or did you come back like 2 weeks later or something for the implantation?
I came back a month later. So I came back twice after I moved. So I guess I can go through everything. I remember before we moved, you and the family came over and you helped us take out some stuff from my garage that I didn't want to ship over. I think it was like a car tent or something like that I gave over to you guys. I was thinking, I don't want to have this. And you're like, oh, I'll take it. I was like, great. That's perfect.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it worked out great. I didn't have to move that. So we packed up and we moved back to the East Coast. We moved to Northeast Pennsylvania in the fall of 2021. And we moved everything into 2 rooms in our house because the rest of the house still needed to have work done on it. And while that was being done, we went to visit my in-laws in Georgia just to spend time with them before my husband started his new job and everything. And at that time, I started taking my endometriosis medicines. So I had it shipped to my in-laws' house and I started taking it there. And then I had to fly back to Arizona less than a month after I had moved. And that was a quick trip. I think I was in there for 2 or 3 days, not even, because I needed to make sure my lining was good. Like it was working. The endometriosis medicine had worked. And my husband didn't come with me because he still had to train. He had to go to training for his new job. So I came back to Arizona and he went off to training, and I met back up with him back in Georgia at my in-laws. And I got the call saying that the endometriosis medicine had worked, and to again do the thin lining protocol. And at the start of my next cycle, so next month, I am going back to Arizona. I need to be there for 2 weeks because the first week would be for ultrasound to make sure my lining was thick enough. And then the last week would be for implantation, for the transfer. And then I could fly home afterwards. But I could not fly home right after the transfer. I had to wait at least 72 hours to make sure that everything was pretty stable before I could do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember that when you did that.
Yeah. And I remember getting that phone call and I was numb. Like I thought in my head, I always imagined, oh, I'm going to be so excited when I get that phone call. But in reality, I was terrified. I was so scared. Isn't that weird?
What was the phone call?
The phone call.
What did they say?
The phone call, he was like, hey, this is Dr. So-and-so. I just wanted to let you know your ultrasound came back and it looks great. The endometriosis medicine worked great. Start the thin lining protocol at the beginning of your next cycle. And next month, come back and make sure you can make 2 visits to us. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Now it's real.
Exactly. It's so real. And like my husband was super excited. My in-laws are super excited. And I'm like terrified.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because now it's like the unknown. We don't like the unknown, me and you.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing all this time with all these delays, it's like, oh, okay, another delay. That's about right. You know, even though it was, you hated it. It's like, oh, another disappointment. Okay, I'm cool with that. But now this is gonna happen, and I I had a little voice in my head that told me, you're ready. You've been preparing your whole life for this. You've been hoping your whole life for this, and you've been preparing for 2 years for this. You're ready. And I just had to just close my eyes and jump right in.
That's so awesome. And then what was that like? So then what happened?
I booked a hotel room, got ready to fly back out to Arizona, and I called you, and we were going to make plans and get together and everything. And at this point, my husband wasn't working yet, so we had no income. We've had no income for a couple months now. We're kind of living off of savings. And so I knew I needed to stay someplace for 2 weeks. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I'll be honest, I'm a girl who likes plush comfort. So I said, okay, let's not spend too much. Let's just find someplace safe. So I found someplace I thought was good. I flew into Arizona, took an Uber over, and I get there, and it was horrible. I get to my room, the door didn't lock, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, by the way. The door to my room didn't lock. The bolts didn't work. The chain didn't work. The doorknob was loosey-goosey. So I barricaded myself in the room. I moved a desk and a chair to barricade it for the night. And the bed had suspicious stains in it, so I did not sleep that night. And I called management, and they apologized. I said, this is not the room I had booked. And I was so upset. I called my husband, and he goes, honey, just book another room. I don't care. You have to be safe. You cannot stay in a place where the door doesn't lock. You can't do that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That makes a lot of sense. So I booked another hotel, but it was, at this point, it was like midnight, and I was exhausted. And I slept there in a chair because I would not touch that bed with the suspicious stains. And the next morning I called I called an Uber, and I checked out of that hotel, and I went to another one, and it was much better. And I was very comfortable and very safe there. But I just thought, what is going on? I just want to have my baby. Why is all this happening? And that's a hotel that you met me at, the good one.
Oh yeah, that was a nice one too. Yeah. That was a nice hotel.
That was. It was much better than ones that didn't lock. I mean, I've never been to some place like that. Bananas.
I once went to this, this is like a side note. I once went to this like motel in Flagstaff, just like needed a place quick, not planned. So I was all by myself, and I go, and like on the desk, it's like, there's no refunds if you don't like your room or something. And I was like, that's kind of weird. So I was like, can I look at the room first? And it was so sketchy. I was like, oh my God.
I give you credit for
it was like literally like a key. Not even one of it wasn't electronic. It was like a real key. I'm like, anyone could have had a copy. Like, spooky.
Yep. I give you credit for giving them a chance. Because if I read that sign, I think I would have just turned around and said, nope, not here. Goodbye.
I'm glad I had enough common sense to be like, that's weird.
I can't believe that I was actually like, what am I going to do? The room doesn't lock. Like any idiot would say, get out of there. But I said, let me barricade myself in this room for the night and see what happens.
Hey, well, you were on an adventure. What can you say?
Yeah. Now I can laugh about it in retrospect because I'm still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you met up with me at the hotel, and we hung out. We had our girls' time and everything, and that was a lot of fun. And do you remember how crazy I was about my medicines? Remember, we would go out, and I had to go and take my meds, and how many alarms?
Yeah.
My crazy timers.
I can't remember because I know I had like a infant with me.
Yes, number 3.
Yeah. I remember though, I was having a drink at the restaurant and I don't remember if you did or not.
No, I didn't because I
I'm
couldn't.
enjoying this.
Yeah, you were enjoying it. I
I didn't
couldn't.
think so. Yeah.
No, because I was already walking into walls just on my medicine. I was thinking I should not have alcohol. I wanted to, but I'm already walking into walls sober. This is not a good idea.
I was like, I'm enjoying not being pregnant right now.
We got good food. I had fun.
Yeah. So what did you do while you were there that time?
So you kept me sane, and another friend came and stayed with me also after you left, and she kept me sane and on track with all my crazy timers and everything. And so that first week, I went for the ultrasound at the office, and I was so nervous because I was thinking, oh my gosh, what if there's not enough lining? What am I going to do? Am I going to stay here a month until next month to do this? Do I fly home? What do I do? And fortunately, that didn't happen. He came back to me and says, it's 10 millimeters. The medicine worked so well that I went from a 3 millimeter lining that was spotty to 10 millimeters plush. And it was uniform all over. He was very happy. I was thrilled. And he said, come back next week for transfer. So everything was still on track. So that's the first time I went on track right there at the end.
Wow. That's great. That's when it matters, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So at that point, when I got the clearance, I started acupuncture because I had read multiple studies that that it helps, especially with implantation, because what it does is that it helps to increase blood flow to the uterine areas to make a nice plush lining, which is great. If you get acupuncture right before transfer and right after transfer, it decreases uterine contraction, increasing the likelihood that you'll get pregnant. So I booked him. I went to his office for the rest of the week to get acupuncture, and then I hired him to come to the IVF office to do acupuncture for me right before the transfer and then right after the transfer.
Acupuncture is the greatest invention. I do it at least once a month, but as often as physically possible.
Yeah.
And the cupping, it like legitimately does detox me because when I go a long time without doing my cupping, my marks are very, very dark. And they say that's like an indication that like you really needed it in that spot. But like if I do it more often, like when I'm pregnant, I do it really a lot, but they're lighter, you know? So you can tell that you aren't like detoxing as much because you don't need to. It's incredible. Plus like the acupuncture is like amazing.
I love acupuncture. Whenever I did acupuncture, I sleep so well. It's amazing. But it's funny what you said about cupping. So I never done cupping before until recently. And I did it.
Oh God, it's amazing.
And it was amazing. I loved it. But guess what happened? I had this rare occurrence. I have 2 divots in my back. So it caused cell death. It caused lipolysis there, like death, like fat cell death there. Yeah.
What?
So I have 2 small divots.
What happened?
I can't do anything about it. I mean, unfortunately, it's in my underwear line, so you can't see it. But that is where I had the most rigorous marks there because that is where I hold all my tension. And I think my inflammation was just so high because I had marks there for weeks. And my practitioner is very skilled, very, very skilled. She's amazing. I trust her, but it was just a random side effect that, now I have 2 small divots in my lower back. You can't see it. Thank goodness. Isn't that weird? How weird is that?
So have you ever done it since, or did you just avoid it ever since?
I avoided it ever since because I think I'm lucky I didn't have it on my upper back because I had a lot of reaction all up and down my back because it was the first time I had done it. And I'm just glad it wasn't someplace that people can see.
Running around tramp stamp.
No. Those days are over.
But you do wear bikinis and you look good in bikinis, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But I don't have a tramp stamp and those days are over for me. So,
Well, maybe you could get one and cover them up.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's the perfect spot. Totally surprise your husband one day and come home with one and don't tell him.
My husband hates tattoos. He does not care for tattoos. That's so funny.
My husband won't even let me do microblading. He's like, no, I'm not going to let you tattoo your face.
My husband said the same thing. That's what I said. And he's like, no. And like,
I'm listening to his logic.
I'm like, I'll do me. Now, you back off. I'll do me eventually.
Yeah. I know. But it's like, okay, we're like getting off on a tangent, but really something like that, you better know who is doing a tattoo on your face. I'm just saying, like, because I've seen some bad ones. Am I wrong?
Oh no, you're totally right. I've seen really bad ones. I'm thinking, oh, I should ask them where they went and not go there.
That can go bad.
Yeah.
Very bad.
I'll stick to penciling them in myself and I could wash it off if I have a hiccup or something.
Exactly.
So yes, we digressed. But yes, I did acupuncture.
Yes, where were we?
Acupuncture.
Okay, acupuncture, yes.
Fantastic. We both love it, and it's been shown in studies that it helps in embryo transfer and having them stick because it decreases uterine contraction.
Well, it obviously worked.
Yes.
For you.
Something worked.
Tell us about the moment that you found out that it did work. Like the one that stayed. Like, what was that moment like for you? I feel like a lot of us can relate to like when you find out you're pregnant, you know, and you're like, woohoo, like, but for you, it's like all of this 4 years and all the journey and all the waiting. And now you finally have like what you've been fighting so hard for.
It was surreal. So I flew home for 72 hours after my transfer. It was actually Christmas Day I flew home and I was hoping I was pregnant. 2 weeks later, I went in for a blood test. They didn't want me to pee on a stick. They're like, no, just go and get blood work done and we're going to measure your pregnancy hormone. And I was, of course, obsessed. I checked my portal every like 10 minutes to see if it was there. And then it was, and it said it was positive. And I didn't believe what I was reading. So my husband was at work. So I screenshotted it to him. I'm like, am I hallucinating? And he goes, no, honey, you're pregnant. And I was like, no. And I'm looking for every excuse to go like, oh, it's just marginally positive. No, it was dead positive. It was a good pregnancy. It was a good take. And my doctor's office called and said, congratulations, start these medicines.
Oh, really? What were those?
Progesterone.
What were those for?
So progesterone, when a woman gets pregnant naturally, what happens is just a quick review, and I'm glossing over the process a lot. There's a lot more detail to it. But basically, every month a woman ovulates, right? The ovary releases an egg, and the egg travels down the fallopian tube. And if it gets fertilized, it attaches itself to the uterine lining. And that little scar tissue, I wouldn't call it scar tissue, that little place where that egg was released from the ovary becomes a corpus luteum, and it secretes progesterone to keep a woman pregnant until there is enough, I guess the baby makes enough of an attachment to your lining to get your uterine lining to create a placenta, and then you get hormones for the placenta. So for my first trimester, I was on progesterone several times a day, high doses, to try to ensure that, because I'm older, to ensure that I stayed pregnant, because I didn't have that corpus luteum. So I didn't have the natural secretion of progesterone there. So I was on that for 12 weeks. So my first trimester, I was on oral progesterone for the entire time.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I thought, you get pregnant and that's it. But no, it wasn't a natural pregnancy. My body doesn't think it's pregnant, and it has to get used to the fact it's pregnant and then produce its own hormone. So I had to sustain it somehow, and that was through meds. And I never thought of it that way. So when he said, okay, this is your next batch of medicines if you get pregnant, I said, huh?
I never thought that you would be taking, like, no, I didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, what?
Yeah. 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 I was surprised too. And I thought, oh yeah, that's right. I don't have that corpus luteum. That makes sense.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I was on progesterone for 12 weeks, and that made me very sick. That is when the toilet became my best friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
First trimester too, and it's probably like amplified.
Yeah.
Like that.
It wasn't my best time. I slept a lot. Thank goodness I didn't have a job. I would have been fired. But I was unconscious. I joke around, but I did the math. I was unconscious for most of the day. Like I slept 18 hours and then I was hugging the toilet for the next 6. That's what it broke down to for the first trimester.
Yeah.
But I got through it. And then my friend who is a surrogate, so she's done IVF, she's been a surrogate, and she also has her own 2 children. And she told me, don't worry, after week 13, it's going to get better. And I was like, I don't believe you. Excuse me, you have to run to the toilet again. And she was right. After that, it slowly got better. And then it was much, much better. So if you're in that and you're feeling, oh my goodness, is this ever going to stop? Am I going to feel normal again? Yes, I promise you, you will feel normal again. And that's another thing. I felt so much guilt. So much guilt.
Why?
I hated being sick.
Guilt.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? I hated being sick, but at the same time, I knew it was a good thing that for me to be sick. It means that the baby's making really great connection and my body is trying to stay pregnant. So, you want that. You want that. And I worked for that. But at the same time, I was resentful of being ill the whole time. So it's a very strange feeling.
I can relate to that. I mean, I can totally relate to that. Like wanting the baby, but being like, I don't want to be pregnant right now. Like this sucks. And, I totally relate to that. But it's amazing. Like it stuck.
Yeah.
It came to full term. Like you didn't have any complications and you have the baby first time around, so all of that stuff that you went through was probably necessary, so like all of the mess ups and hiccups and problems that could have come all happened early on, but like when it actually really mattered, like my dad says, when the bow hits the fiddle, when it's that time, like game time, everything was like aligned and worked out, which is a miracle.
It really is. And I remember you saying that to me when this was all going on, and it's so true. And I'm one of those people, for some reason, work for it and then I appreciate it. So I think this is just life. All these things that happened in these last few years was saying, hey, you're gonna appreciate it because you had to work for it. So suck it up, get through it, and now you have your amazing miracle baby. She's my idea of a perfect baby. And I do it all over again to have her.
Yeah. And when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, how long is life? And this was 4 years, like that's actually a blip.
It is.
So
it really is. You don't even remember it. Like I said, this is the first time I'm actually reliving it since living through it because so much has gone on. So much more has happened than that time. And that time is important, but you move on.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's just starting their IVF journey, like right now, or somebody who's even thinking about it, maybe not even starting, but like feeling hopeless and maybe what would you say to somebody?
I would say that there's always hope, that just try it because it's worth it. It's worth it to try. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay because you'll figure it out. There are other ways for you to be a mom, and you're going to love that kid no matter what, wherever that kid comes from. I love my nieces and nephews as much as I love my own kid, my friends' kids. I love them as much as I love my own daughter. but I would say try, because the worst thing for me was thinking of looking back and saying I didn't give it my all, that I failed to try to pursue this. So give it your all and hold on to that hope. Like you're a cat clinging to the side of a building. Whatever you have to do, hold on to that. It's worth it. And find a provider who gets you. Please do. Don't be like me and say, "Oh, well, I don't need this person to hold my hand because I have all these other people in my life," which is great. But find a provider who gets you, because this is a really vulnerable time and you don't want someone who's going to go, "Well, you're complicated." No kidding, buddy. So don't be like me. Find someone who gets you, someone you like, and advocate for yourself. Do enough research that you know what's coming and you know what is right, and trust the process to a certain extent, but know where your rights are and what is reasonable and what is not. But just hold on to that hope, because it's all you need is one.
That's true. That's true. So what helped you survive like this season of your life? Practically, emotionally, spiritually? How did you do it? How'd you get through it?
My family and my friends. If I didn't have you with, I could not have done it. I typically play things really close to the chest. I don't talk about my plans or anything like that very often, but for this part of my life, for some reason, I let everyone know. Like I said, I even let strangers know what I was doing. And I had the best community around me. And that's what really got me through it, because at first I felt alone, that I was the only one going through infertility. And unfortunately, almost every woman I know has some story, some heartbreak or something, and they can all relate to some degree. They understand what you feel. So rely on your village, rely on your family and friends, and even nice strangers out there, because it shares the load, because it's too much for you to handle just you and your partner. Share the load with everyone.
Oh, so what do you want listeners to know about you, like about this journey and about, what it means to be the one who stayed?
That's a really tough one. um, this part of my life, I did everything the opposite of what I've always done. Like I said, letting people in, including people in my journey, standing up for myself, not really standing up for myself. I did the opposite of everything I know, and I just followed my gut. And I guess that's what I want you all to know is follow your gut. Listen to what your heart says. And just hold on to that hope, because it just takes one. It just takes one to stay. And if your heart says it's the right thing to do, embrace it. Do it.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, motherhood is all about following your gut anyways, right? So
Yeah.
this was such a beautiful story, and I love all the detail that you were willing to go into, so people can really get a true understanding of what it's like, and can also maybe even understand somebody in your life that's going through it or has gone through it that doesn't necessarily open up. Not everybody opens up about this kind of stuff. So thank you so much
No.
for doing that.
I know I went into a lot of detail, so I do apologize for that. But
I love detail.
I do too. It helps me to relive it.
It's great.
And if you don't like it, then you can skip that part. It's okay.
All right.
Thank you, Tessie.
So thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Pearls of Motherhood. Today's conversation was a tender one, and I just want to take a moment. Thank you, Diana, for opening up and sharing such a personal chapter of your motherhood journey. And if you're listening and walking through infertility or IVF yourself, we hope you felt a little less alone. And if you've never been through it, thank you for being here and holding space for stories that matter. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, you can find us on Instagram at Pomcasts, POMCASTS, and we would love to hear from you. So reach out.